Shadowheart is the most popular character in Baldur's Gate 3, according to the percentage of players that romanced her, and this is for good reason, as her personal questline is by far the most emotionally guttural at every turn. While the end of Astarion's quest absolutely yanked on my heartstrings, I didn't feel it was so effective leading up to that point. In contrast, Shadowheart's quest was intriguing, engaging, heartfelt, and compelling at every turn. The most impressive thing Larian has done when writing these characters is to give them an appropriate and emotional journey that feels so genuine based on your time and actions with these characters. In a game like Mass Effect, you only get to pick your squad mates when you land on a planet, and when you do, it always feels like those absorbing characters I love so dearly have been replaced with an AI that's just there to shoot things. And all of the intense character and relationship building that the franchise is praised for is segregated from the gameplay and main storyline, and all I have to do to advance those plot lines is say good morning a few times to them on my ship. In Baldur's Gate 3, the companions' quest lines are expertly interwoven with the main storyline, so it feels like they're an ever-present part of the plot. Of course, BG3 has other advantages, like having 3 members at a time and not restricting when you can switch them out. But the point is, these stories evolve naturally over the course of the quest. And due to Baldur's Gate 3's extensive runtime, those evolutions can be spread out to a point where they feel natural and are given the appropriate amount of time to gestate. Shadowheart starts off as a bit different from the rest of the companions. She's withdrawn, she's quiet and reserved. Most of the time in an RPG, and even in BG3 itself, you'll meet a new party member and they'll immediately exposit their life story onto you, and it just comes off as a desperate bid to get me to like the character. With Shadowheart, Larian wasn't afraid to keep the character feeling distant from you, because they're confident that the player will latch onto a small part of her, be it her appearance or accent, and they'll want to pursue her and learn more about her and her obvious secret. This is fantastic, because the other companion story hook is an unavoidable part of the game, with a cutscene occurring when you take a long rest, so making sure that Shadowheart's quest has to be sought out speaks to a great confidence on the writer's part. But Larian also created a bit of insurance in order to make sure you'd spend a lot of time with Shadowheart early on, and that comes from blending the story with the gameplay. With Shadowheart being the only healer, you're definitely going to be bringing her along as support. This means one way or another, you're going to get the urge to strike up a conversation with her, even if it's by accidentally clicking on her, which will eventually lead to her opening up to you through organic dialogue and, most importantly, not immediately. Time is the most important factor in the success of a relationship. That's why moving too fast or too slow is a detriment. So by having Shadowheart spend an organic amount of time with you, followed by a gradual confession, it makes the relationship you're building with her feel authentic. The world itself nor the actions of others influence the relationship, as is the case with the rest of the party. Instead, it's a natural relationship that forms between two people talking whenever they feel like how a normal relationship would start. And I could end the essay right here, as I've answered the original question of why so many people like her, because she's the only natural relationship in the entire game. Still, it goes much farther than that as you progress into the Shadow-Cursed lands. However, I will note that the section of the Temple of Shar isn't precisely one of the game's many high points, mainly because it comes right after you've just been through this same plotline beat for beat with Lae'zel. A female party member is a devout member of a goddess. You travel to one of their bases, and the party member begins to have a crisis of faith based on the actions and choices you decide to take within the base. Now, neither the creche nor the temple are bad per se, they're just too similar for them to both be in the same game, and I'd naturally prefer whichever one came first. Still, maybe there's some sort of two sides of the same coin relationship between Lae'zel and Shadowheart that I'm missing. But Shadowheart's phenomenal quest comes to a head in the House of Grief, where this character you've most likely romanced at this point is met with a horrific choice on what to do with her family. Does she abandon her faith and watch her parents die, or does she continue servitude to a goddess she doesn't believe in anymore? and this is where the Lae'zel and Shadowheart questlines deviate, and Shadowheart's becomes far superior. You see, my problem with Lae'zel is that she could have been any Githyanki. There's no personal relationship she has with any character outside of you. As such, she feels like a Githyanki stand-in. While Shadowheart's quest becomes highly personal to her specifically, and the life she had but can't remember before joining Shah, and the cruel Lady of the Night gives her an impossible choice to make. Shadowheart is my and many others' favourite character from Baldur's Gate 3, and the main reason for this is the expert writing and quest design employed by Larian, who have immediately shot themselves up in the hierarchy of my most respected developers with the release of this fantastic game.